Hello, this is novaTopFlex. In this video, I will be going over the novaTop Reputation Standards Conventions, 2nd edition. This is about my novaTopFlex and side channel GeoTopFlex. I actually have two channels. novaTopFlex is my main channel, and I can expect to have numerous topics on novaTopFlex. Most importantly, though, is terminal safety. In the upcoming future, I will perform videos on terminal safety. This means, for instance, that you want to be very careful and very selective on when and when not to use sudo, su, and similar commands. In the near future, sudo-rs may also be in the question. It might be in the questionable. Sudo-rs, whether or not it ends up being your implementation of sudo, this might apply to you. Simple tasks on Linux: cd, ls, mv, change directory, list, move, respectively, cp to copy, ln to symbolic link, and even commands that are not by default. rs, rows and columns. This can be piped to a command like ls, and it might not be considered a default, but it is still a simple task. If you use a graphical user interface and you use a very basic window manager, you might be using the X applications, xclock. xrclock is also simple. Depending on who you or I may ask, these simple tasks may just as well be anything that you can install under 10 megabytes, although that is disputed. Shell commands, though, yes, and operations. When I say shell operations, I am generally speaking about the parameters, but also about how to insert and append to files, or how to, yes, not just with the right angle symbol, the left angle symbol is going to get it to input. Programming documentation, well, yes, these are my documentation-based topics. I maintain documentation-based, content-based, and context-based topics on my channel. Most videos, in the near future at least, should be about the documentation. These will include various applications. The ones you see on bold on the screen are actually the official or unofficial doc sets that I, for the most part, did not have to create myself. I use Zeal as my documentation browser. This is inspired by Dash by Capelli, and I do in fact use dashing. Although it is intended for and officially a macOS application, the dashing functionality works very well and more than just fine on Linux, which is very related, also based on Unix, though not a BSD. It's still related enough that dashing will work on Linux. So, in bold are more popular, usually. Now, less popular, or maybe not so much with development, are not in bold. These are usually from /user/share/doc. And these are as follows: ForPane, ABI compliance checker, accounts service. And sorry that the I was not capitalized in ABI, it is supposed to be. Ada, 2005 and 2012 editions. The reference manual is supposed to correspond to the 2012 International Standard, and then Advanced Bash Scripting. This documentation is about advanced functionality in Bash. It is not about the Bash shell itself. AIO HTTP is a Python module. Alembic, Alpine, Apache HTTP server. The documentation is for version 2.4. Apache Portable Runtime and its utility library. apt, Advanced Packaging Tool. Debian and related distros. apt cacher ng for next generation. This is a pattern for most software ending in ng. It means new generation or next generation. apt offline, aptitude, is a package manager and is indeed a front end for apt. ATK. Atril? I don't know how to say that document viewer, honestly. AutoConf archive. Autodir. AutoDIR. AutoGen. Auto package test. Backbone.js is a JavaScript framework. Base password. Bash 5.2. Documentation as of September 19th, 2022. It is the default shell, though depending on your distribution, it could be bash or it could be dash. In the past, I've been familiar with the GNOME desktop environment using dash and all other desktop environments using bash, though I'm uncertain if that's actually the case. BC, another shell command. Bison, per the GNU project. Bison C++. Blender 4.2. BOGO filter. I have documentation for Bootstrap 3, 4, and 5. Braille teletypewriter. BUP. BusyBox. bzip2. I also have documentation for C and C++. Please check the details for more information. Actions. Calcurse. Ccache. CCCC. Clang. Cross compiler. Closure. CMake. CodeIgniter. Collectil. Colplot. Comer. Common Lisp. This is just Lisp, not to be confused with the Emacs variant. CVS, Concurrent Versioning System. And this is also a common term not just for Debian, but in the cybersecurity and computer science realms as well. CouchDB is an Apache CPU set. Crack. Cracklib runtime. Crystal, programming language by the way. CSS. CUDA from NVIDIA. CXRef. Python interface to C. D3.js, another JavaScript framework. DC, I have Debian-related manuals. Debian, FAQ, frequently asked questions, history, kernel, live, policy, reference, and tickle policy. Deja GNU, DH build info. Dia, diagram editor, for the GNU Office suite. Presentations. Diffutils, Django, DNSViz, DocBase, DocDiff, Docker for containers, I already said DNSViz, DocUtils, Dot2Tech, Doxygen, or is it Deoxygen? Drupal console, although I believe the Drupal console has been decommissioned in favor of Drush, DRUSH, which maintains essentially all the functionality of the old Drupal console. But for legacy reasons, I have access to the Drupal console documentation. Ed2K, or is it ED2K hash? Elasticsearch, Elixir, Elpa HTMLIs. Elvish is an alternate shell. And by the way, Elixir is, I believe, related to Erlang, which I will say soon. Emacs, and its corresponding Lisp. Ember.js. Eric, for Python. eSpeak. ExecNet. ExifTool. Expat. And if I had forgotten, or if you didn't catch me say this, I already said Erlang. FFmpeg. Fish. Another alternate shell, like Elvish. Flask. Flatpak. Flatpak Builder. FLDiff. Flex, which I believe is a GNU project again. Flex C++. FLTK. Fastlight Toolkit for graphical design. Font Awesome. Second most popular after Google Fonts, I believe, for the font utility for the web and for applications, I believe. Font Config. FreeBSD Handbook. The documentation available on my system is for FreeBSD versions 12.0 and 11.2. FVWM Nightshade. While I do not have documentation for FVWM Crystal, I also sometimes will showcase FVWM Crystal depending on the specific video in question. GBP, GCC, I have documentation for 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. G-COBOL version 15. The GNU debugger, the GNU decompiler version 15. GDisk, is it Gani? Is it Gianni? What is it? Gentoo, not Gentoo Linux, the Gentoo file manager. Geomview, gettext, Ghidra script, Ghost script, Git. I know some of you will say JIT, and that is the preferred pronunciation according to the maintainers of, and according to GitHub, they say JIT, just like Mojang or whatnot. But in a lot of the industry, we say Git, kind of a shibboleth of sorts. Git big picture, Git build package, Git cola, Git inspector, Git magic, gcrlm, Glasgow Haskell compiler, glfw, which is related to OpenGL, glib, part of the GNU toolkit, the GNU Modula 2 compiler, version 15, GNOME screensaver, GNOME session, GNU accounting utilities, GNU C library or glibc, GNU C preprocessor 15 CPP, GNU Emacs Common Lisp emulation, Emacs CL, Make 4.4.1, Documentation Edition 0.77, GNU Nano, GNU Parallel, GNU Scientific Library, GNU Standards, GNUit, Go. Also, side note, I have projects, including my last video, that I have showcased, written in Go. GPS Babel, Gradle DSL, Gradle Java API, Gradle User Guide, GraphViz. GraphViz, if I remember correctly, is used for actual graphs in Python. GRASS for GIS, Geographic Information Systems, or Geospatial Software. GTK3 NoCSD, GTKMM, GTK Source View, Handlebars, Hardware Book. Side note again, Hardware Book is actually the original edition. The Hardware Book website does not have many technologies newer than 2019. And if you install the Hardware Book on Ubuntu Linux or on select other distributions, expect to receive the original version of the Hardware Book. You will not receive information about any hardware technologies newer than about 2004 this way, though. Haskell, Hypertext Markup Language, HTML Doc, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, Hypothesis, i3, Integrate, Intel Intrinsics, IPSVD, IPython 7.14.0, iWidgets 4 demos, J, the programming language of J, Java, Java Helper, JavaScript, Jekyll. Jekyll is a content management engine for the web, similar to Drupal, except that Drupal is the most customizable and most advanced. Jekyll is actually associated with the Ruby programming language in numerous instances. Also, Jekyll is a content management engine that I am practicing and preparing and learning how to use, including Jekyll Admin when necessary. Again, using Ruby. And the crates. JFTP, Jinja, Joomla. Joomla is similar to both Jekyll and Drupal. Joomla is really the mid-range content management engine. If you're doing more than just a simple blog, but if you're not so advanced you need Drupal, Joomla is your middle line. jQuery. jQuery internationalization properties examples. jQuery Mobile, jQuery User Interface, JSDoc, Julia, Jython, Python interface to Java, or is it the other way around? KBD for keyboards, KiCad. I always thought it was KiCad. Please correct me if KiCad is wrong. It is CAD software, specifically for printed component boards or PCBs, and for hardware. It's for circuitry. Knockout.js for JavaScript. Kotlin. KSH for Corn Shell. Kubernetes. LADSPA SDK, Software Development Kit, used for DAWs, digital audio workstations, and their maintenance on Linux systems. LaTeX. LaTeX to HTML. Lazy load examples. These are all libraries. Anything that starts with lib other than LibreOffice is a library. ADNS1, Advaita, Armadillo 12, CFITS.io, Command Liner OCaml, Crack, CAML, Elemental, Exif API, FFI8, FFTW3, FindLib OCaml Dev, Format, Fuse, Firmware Update Plugin, FIBA, or is that correct, FYBA? GDK Pixbuff 2.0. Very familiar with some of these, not so much with others. GHC, the following are for GHC. Data Default Class, Random, Set Locale, Split Mix, UTF-8 String, X11, XFT, Xmonad, Xmonad Contrib, and Xmonad is actually, speaking of that, written in Haskell. So I wonder if libghc is for the Glasgow Haskell compiler libraries. libglib 2.0 dev, libgonk, libgtk4, libhandy, libhfsp0, libitm, libjack, libjpf java, libjs bootstrap, and bootstrap 4 as well, and CodeMirror, and Cropper tests, and Xcanvas tests, and Lunar, and Scriptaculous, and JSON C5, and JS underscore, and LO, Notify 0, off, OSP5, OTR5, libpmix, libpng++, quadmath. As I had already mentioned, LibreOffice is not a library. RT Audio, RT MIDI, Sane Common, Secret, Soup 3.0, Spreadsheet, Write Excel Perl, libssh 0.7, Telepathy glib, Trace Command 1, Vorbis X1, XCB1, Xerces 2 Java, Xfont, XML2, XMU headers, XSLT1, YANFS Java, Lintian API, Linux man pages, Linux user mode, LLVM, low-level virtual machine, also known as LLVM core. Lua, I have documentation for all of the following: 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and 5.4. Links help for the text-based and oldest continuously maintained web browser, Links. LZOP, is it LZOP? Marionette.js for JavaScript again. Markdown. Mastodon. Documentation last updated October 11th, 2024. Last I checked. Not sure if there's anything new since. Not Mate, but Mate Session Manager. Matplotlib, which is used for mathematics and for plotting in Python. Similar, but not quite the same as GraphViz. Maxima. Menu, for Debian menus. Minisat, MKDocs, MKDocs Literate Nav, Module Assistant, Moment.js for JavaScript again, MongoDB, which is unfortunately on the server-side public license, but even though it is not open source because it's SSPL, I am still interested in MongoDB, and I'm still possibly going to need to learn about MongoDB just in case. MPlayer, Muse, Mutt, MySQL or MySQL, including MySQL NDB cluster 8.4, Nagios plugins, contrib, Nagios SNMP plugins, ncurses. Is it ncurses? Is it ncurses? But it is about a graphical-ish terminal interface in the TTY. Netplan, Nettle, Netwag, Netwox, Nextcloud Desktop. Not pronounced Nginx, but Nginx. Oftentimes, you will see Nginx spelled in exclusively lowercase letters, though. Ninja, NLTK, just a neural language toolkit, by the way. Nmap, Node.js, another JavaScript framework. NPM, JavaScript Package and Version Manager, NPM and NVM. NSCDE, like FVWM Crystal and Nightshade, NSCDE is another example of an environment using FVWM. Not so common desktop environment based on the common desktop environment, by the way. NumPy for numbers and for extended mathematics. OCaml, system release 4.07. Objective Camel, by the way. Odin, another programming language. OHCount. OpenCL is the open computing language. OpenCV is the open source computer vision library. And I have Open Graphics Library, OpenGL versions 2, 3, and 4, plus extensions and GLSL. All documentation for all of these. OpenOCD, which I believe is for systems compilation and hardware, if I remember correctly. OpenSP, OpenVPN, OptiPNG, Org Mode Manual for Emacs Org Mode, Package Search, Pandas, Pandoc. Pandas is another common Python library for data structures and analysis, by the way. Pango, from Pan and Go, from Greek and Japanese. These are C libraries and C++ libraries. This is why we see the documentation created using GIDocgen. If you have Pango installed, libpango, if you look at Pango docs on user shared doc, it's usually GIDocgen if it asks you to press S to search, if that's an option. Pango, I have Pango, Pango Cairo, Pango FC, Pango FT2, Pango OT, and Pango XFT. Pavu Control, P-Builder, PCP, PEPs, Python Enhancement Protocol, no, proposals. Sorry, not protocols, Python Enhancement Proposals. Perl, Raku or Rakudo since circa 2019, formerly known as Perl 6. I actually renamed the documentation on my own computer, but officially it's Perl 6, even though it's called Rakudo now. PHP, Hypertext Processor. I had always thought it was Perl, but April 15th, 2025 was my last update, if I know correctly. PipX, for Python. PNM to PPA. Is this for personal package archives? PoDebConf, PolicyKit or PolKit, PostGIS, similar to Grass, and both are utilized for geospatial services. PostgreSQL. I do not believe that it's pronounced PostgreSQL by anyone. Privacy, Processing, ProcMailLib, ProcServe, Prototype.js for JavaScript, PTask, Putty, or PUTTY, PwnTools, PyAARLO, Pygments, PyGraphViz, PyGraSQL, PyLuach, PyMatchen, PyMongo, PyMySQL, PyOpenCL, PyOrbital, PyQt or PyQt Builder, PyCday, not PySide, at least I don't think so, 2. CDay, because it's Finnish, I believe, for notebook. PyTables, PyTest. I also have documentation for PyTest, Dependency, Django App, Flask, MPI, Order, Regressions, Trio, XProcess, PyTest Fixtures, and PyTest Qt. In addition to Python 3 num codecs and object graph. or objgraph. I also have documentation for legacy Python 2 and supported Python 3. The newest version available today is 3.13 officially at that series. Development is 3.14, is currently approaching the release candidate phase, I believe, since May, and is expected, per the 17-month release cadence, to be released in October. Also at this point, Python 3.15 is in pre-alpha development. This includes, or may include, module safety, usage, and commands. I also have Python-related documentation for the aforementioned AIO OpenSSL, as well as for AMQP, Bleach, Boolean, Build, C++, Caja, Castellan, Cbor2, Cliff, CMD2, Cookie Cutter, Cursive, Debt Collector, Dialog, IRFA, etcd3gw, Eventlet, FHS, FPyutils, Func, Futurist, Gevent, Glance Client, GUI GUI Data, H5Py, Hardware, Hyro, Image.io, IPy, IPy Parallel, Jellyfish, Jupyter Client, Keystone Auth, Kombu, Limits, Logilab, Mako, Microversion Parse, Migrate, NB Convert, Network, Network Manager, Objgraph, OpenStack Software Development Kit, OpenStack Brick, Client Config Service Types, Traits, VIF, Win, OSC Library, as well as Oslo, Cache Concurrency Log Middleware Policy, Percept Report Service Version Objects, as well as OVSDB App, Package Info, Patsy, Periphery, PEX, PGPy, Polyline, Presets, QStylizer, QtAwesome, RapidJSON, regex, requests, ring doorbell, routes, rpaths, rtree, Sphinx argparse, Sphinx auto API, Sphinx inline tabs, Sphinx tabs, SVN, which I believe is service version or whatnot, not sure semantic version networking, Terminato, terminal tables, TK tree control, URI tools, Watchdog, WebSocket daemon, WXMplot, XAR, and SLXS writer, as well as QEMU for virtual machines, QJS, QStarDict for the Qt dictionary, Qt 4, 5, and 6, Qt for Python, including both PyCD 6 and Shiboken 6, which Shiboken is for the C and C++ bindings. PyCD is for Python itself. Quilt, R 4.4.3 patched, February 28th, 2025. Rack, Racket, Raku, as I'd already mentioned through Perl 6, by the way. Same thing. Rarcrack, Reclass, Recode, Recall, Reg Lookup, RiserFS programs, Rep Repro, Requests, Request.html, Require.js, RFC, September 19th, 2024, Routino, RRD tool, Ruby 1, Ruby 2, Ruby 3, Cramdown, Ruby on Rails 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Runit, Rust, Sales.js, Sans 9, Sass, Scala, SciPy. SciPy is like NumPy, but it is for science rather than mathematics, and this is another Python library. Screen grab, SE Linux policy. Keep in mind that I use Ubuntu, and Ubuntu uses AppArmor. SE Linux documentation is also available just in case you use an SE Linux virtual machine or whatnot. I even have access and have downloaded and installed different versions of the Linux kernel, so I actually have the ability to change a Linux kernel to what suits me best. If the Linux kernel I create uses SE Linux, that would be fine, just like AppArmor, but I would prefer SE Linux. At least, because, well, I was biased when I said this at first, because I thought SE Linux, Security Enhanced Linux, was the name of a Linux distro, SE Linux is not a Linux distro. Semantic UI. Shared MIME info. Share utils. Shiboken 2. Simple Monitor. Smart Mod Tools. SoCat. Space FM is a file manager. Sphinx. Spring Framework. SQL Alchemy or SQL Alchemy. SQLite or SQLite. Standard C++ library of GCC 15. Staghide for steganography purposes. Stopwatch. Subversion, if I know right, Apache. Supervisor. SVG, Scalable Vector Graphics. SVN, aforementioned SVN build package though. Swig. Symfony. SymPy for symbolic mathematics in Python. Tickle or Ticklet. Tickle WS. TensorFlow. AI. Open source AI. Truly open source AI for Python. Not quite FOSS, but it is as close as you can get right now. TechKey to HTML. TechLive. TechLive Base. TIG. Reverse Git, but I'm not sure exactly what TIG is. Time. Is it just the shell command time? Tix. Decommissioned, discontinued, archived, perhaps read-only. TTK has taken over most of the TIC functionality. Not all of it, but legacy applications will use TICs. TK, including TKFS Dialog, TKCon, TKDesk, TKDND for drag and drop, TKTray, TKTree, CTRL control, Tor, Trace CMD, Trace Command, Twisted, TypeScript, Ubuntu Packaging Guide, Umax, _JS for JavaScript, Unicode characters, UWSGI, Valgrid, Vib, Auto, sorry about the misspelling, Pep8, Auto Pep8 for Python, Vib scripts, Virtual Env, VMDB2, Vue.js, Vulkan, W3M, Wapiti, is that how you say that? Wayland++, Webpack, Wireplumber, Wireshark, WooCommerce, commercial, WordPress. WordPress and WooCommerce are deeply intertwined and are highly related in a single ecosystem, especially if you pay for WordPress.com or use WordPress.org. WPCLI, the official command line interface to WordPress, especially WordPress.org. WX Maxima. WX Python 4.0.7, the Phoronix release. WX SQLite or WX SQLite 3. WX Widgets. x86_64, x86-64 assembly language. NASM, NASM, if that's correct. Zapier. X Archiver. X Certificate Authority. XDG Desktop Portal. XINetD for X Internet Daemon, is that right? Conch. And that is an alternate shell. XONSH is conch, pronounced conch. It is a shell, and as a shell, it is actually a combination shell. Conch is a combination shell of just shell and Python. And you can use both in conch. Now, it is not like pure Python or a hard shell in any way. Xorg, XSLT, Xterm, basic terminal emulator, by the way, Xtrans, XXDiff, Yarn, Zepto.js, another JavaScript framework, and ZSH if you're international. ZSH. February 14th, 2020. Alternate shell. Troubleshooting. Transmission Control Protocol. User Datagram Protocol. Essential Protocols. Normally, when I do protocols, it's FTP, SSH, Telnet, HTTP, HTTPS, and while this isn't true for this video specifically, VNC is also important in many others. This includes understanding the virtual network computing ports and differences. Virtualization, including testing, safety, and the environments and comparison of environments. GeoTopFlex is its own channel, so now, and then this is a reference sheet that I have for and I'm not going to read all the numbers. You can pause the video. These are some of the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority topics, port numbers for TCP and UDP that you can expect me to speak about in future video content as well. Operating system names as official from the IANA, again, IANA, Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. And then graphical desktop sessions, I have installed additional systems since. So I have Budgie, ChiroDoc, Compiz, and Metacity, Cinnamon and Cinnamon Tootie, GNOME Classic, Flashback, regular GNOME, LXDE, LXQt, Mate, OpenBox with GNOME and KDE, regular GNOME as well. Well, I already said that, but Ubuntu default GNOME, KDE Plasma, Unity, and XFCE. What I call special environments are the FVWM Crystal, FVWM Nightshade, and NSCDE, all aforementioned. And window managers, these are just some of the window managers I use. I've also installed AshWM++, as well as CWM, as well as I have JWM, as already mentioned. I use Blackbox, Fluxbox, and OpenBox occasionally. I have installed HerbSluffWM. I have also officially installed, wait for it, IceWM. TinyWM, technically also installed, but it is unofficial. It is only the tiniest as advertised on GitHub. LeftWM, Adventurers, written in Rust, not officially available on Ubuntu though. I also have 5 Wayland sessions that I focus on. I don't normally record on Wayland, plus if I use Wayland, the computer is less functional, which is why I'm scared to use Wayland on video, especially if I want to use VNCs. VNC, for the most part, absolutely demands I use X or X Libre, hopefully, in the future. Now, keep in mind that this has not been entirely updated since. If you know anyone on an X Libre development team who's bringing any of the window managers, special environments, or desktop environments to X Libre, I would gladly appreciate it. If you'd like the video content and would like to see more long-form videos like this one, please give a comment. Also, if you think I've mispronounced any of the names here, please give a comment then anyway. Like, share, subscribe, and do all the other tips and tricks to help out the YouTube algorithm and help boost my content. This is a very niche topic. If you know anyone else who is interested in Linux, Ubuntu, even a BSD distro, I would like you to help out by encouraging more people to watch. And anyone who's interested in any of these distros, even Solaris and Unix-based ones. And with that, see you. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video content coming very, very soon. Signing off.